welcome to the SVG-TV news for today, Tuesday, June 20th. I'm Khalil Kato, tonight with the details. The National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, and the SVG Meteorological Services are advising all residents to closely monitor the approach of Tropical Storm Brett, which is said to be closer to the island chain than the previous forecast track. In its 72-hour outlook issued today, the Met Office said weak instability could bring a few scattered showers across St. Vincent and the Grenadines by this evening and the chance of isolated thunderstorms tonight. It says east-northeasterly winds range from 15 to 35 kilometers per hour as Tropical Storm Brett moves closer to the island chain. The Met Office says the passage of Brett could bring increased showers across our islands late Thursday into Friday. Residents and motorists in areas prone to flooding and landslides or near rivers and streams are asked to remain on the alert. It says sea conditions are slight to moderate in open waters, with swells between 1 and 1.5 meters and likely to become moderate to rough between 1.5 and 3 meters by late Thursday and retreat during Friday. The SVG Met Services says it will continue to monitor Tropical Storm Brett and issue the necessary updates and advisories. NEMO is also urging residents, especially persons living in the north of the island, in areas north of the Rabaca Dry River, to be extra vigilant, even though there is some level of uncertainty. NEMO says while there are no watches or warnings in effect for SVG at this time, residents are strongly advised to be prepared as we are in the hurricane season, and regardless of the forecast, there is a possibility for rains, gusty winds, and rough seas. NEMO is advising residents to get prepared and to put the following in place. Take time out to review your family emergency plans. Determine where you and your family will shelter the storm in the event that evacuation becomes necessary. Know where your nearest emergency shelter is located. Review your insurance policies and coverage, and take photos and/or video footage of your property. Store this information with your important papers, visually inspect your home and property, and make any repairs necessary. Check the roof for loose sheeting, clear gutters and drains to ensure proper drainage, cut loose or overhanging branches, stock up on clean drinking water, medicine and food supplies for at least 3 days, and prepare an emergency supply kit. For yet another year, St. Vincent and the Grenadines has maintained its Tier 2 ranking in the annual Trafficking in Persons report. Head of the Anti-Trafficking Unit of the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force, Superintendent of Police Junior Simmons, told SVG-TV News that maintaining the Tier 2 ranking for the 7th year is very significant for the country.
That as a country, St. Vincent and the Grenadines is playing a major role in combating human trafficking, not only in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and in the region, but internationally. And it is something that we should feel very proud of. And this is testament of the hard work of all of the practitioners and partners within the human trafficking combating apparatus in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which is spearheaded by the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons. And this task force is chaired by the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Ralph E. Gonzalez, and it is made up of several other cabinet ministers and senior public servants, including the Commissioner of Police and the Chief Immigration Officer, among others. So this task force, they set the policies for combating human trafficking, and the Anti-Trafficking Persons Unit and the the Ministerial Working Group Against Trafficking Persons, we carry out those policies. So the fact that we were able to maintain our Tier 2 ranking for the past 7 years, this is testament that we are very serious about what we do, that we are leaving no stone unturned when it comes to combating trafficking, rescuing victims of trafficking, pursuing and bringing the human traffickers to justice. So on behalf of the chairman of the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons, the Prime Minister, I wish to express our thanks and gratitude to our many partners, including the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Passport and Immigration Department, Department of Labor, Gender Affairs Department, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Customs and Excise, the Financial Intelligence Unit, SVG Coast Guard.
The U.S. State Department, which publishes the annual report, said the government of SVG does not fully meet the minimum standards for the elimination of trafficking, but is making significant efforts to do so. ASP Simmons explains the reason for this.
Minimum standards that all of the countries that are assessed by the United States Department of State must meet, okay? And based on how you implement these standards, then you are placed on the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and the watch list as well. Now, these standards, some of them include whether the government is making a sustained effort in combating human trafficking, whether the government has enacted laws to punish human traffickers, whether the government is raising awareness about human trafficking among the population. We have been doing that. We have been doing that for a very, very long time. As a matter of fact, awareness raising is one of our major successes when it comes to human trafficking. Now, the report says that we did not meet the minimum standard. That is true, because it is important to note that in order for a country to fully meet these standards, there must be a certain amount of resources in place. And Simmons and Grenadians is a developing country, and we could only utilize the resources that we have at hand to combat trafficking, and that is what we are doing. We need assistance from our global partners so that we can really up the fight against human trafficking. And once we can get that assistance, then we can, next year, God willing, we can be on tier 1. If you notice, the countries that are on tier 1, they are developed, rich countries that can really inject additional resources into the fight against trafficking. And once we can get that, definitely we can reach to the tier 1.
The report said the government demonstrated overall increasing efforts compared with the previous reporting period, considering the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on its anti-trafficking capacity. These efforts included amending the anti-trafficking law to remove the option of a fine in lieu of imprisonment, increasing the number of and funding for police patrols in tourist areas and at large public gatherings where trafficking was more likely to occur, and increasing public awareness efforts, including targeting new at-risk populations. It, however, noted that the government did not meet the minimum standards in several key areas, pointing out that the authorities have not prosecuted a trafficking case since 2015 and have never convicted a trafficker. It added that the victim identification and services remained weak, and the government did not provide adequate resources for anti-trafficking efforts. The U.S. State Department listed several prioritized recommendations for St. Vincent and the Grenadines to deal with the issue of human trafficking. These include to vigorously prosecute and enable successful convictions of traffickers and seek adequate penalties for convicted traffickers, which should involve significant prison terms, increase investigations of suspected sex and labor trafficking cases, particularly cases involving children, increase government funding and resources across all relevant agencies to combat trafficking, improve the quality and specialization of victim services, consistently screen domestic and foreign at-risk populations, including former IDPs, economically disadvantaged children, individuals in commercial sex, migrants, and Cuban medical workers for trafficking indicators, and refer victims to care. ASP Simmons say they continue to work hard to implement these recommendations.
As to those recommendations in the report, we are working very hard to implement them. As a matter of fact, the amendment to the Trafficking Act, that was the previous recommendation that the U.S. government made to us, and we have implemented that recommendation. So we are implementing the recommendations incrementally as time goes by, and our aim is to implement all of them, in the best possible way and time.
Okay.
Now, we are not only fighting human trafficking locally. We are doing so on, regionally and globally. For example, just as recent as May 22nd to 26th, 2023, Simmons and Grenadians participated in Operation Carry-Seeker. Now, this was a joint operation that was led by CARICOM Impacts and Seeker countries from Central America, and the 15 CARICOM countries. So together, there were 25 countries participating in this operation. And this operation amassed great success. For example, over 60 victims of trafficking were rescued during this operation, and over 170 persons were arrested during the operation as well. We also seized guns and ammunition and other contraband during this operation, and this was across CARICOM and the Central American countries, known as SECA countries.
In the trafficking profile on SVG, the U.S. State Department said, as reported over the past 5 years, human traffickers exploit domestic and foreign victims in the country, noting that in April 2021, the La Soufrière volcanic eruption and a subsequent hurricane destroyed a third of the country's arable land and made almost all arable land inaccessible, leading to massive crop failures and cutting off the main source of revenue and employment, and displaced a sixth of its population, making this group newly vulnerable to trafficking. It said adults may exploit their children in sex trafficking to generate income, while others may exploit children that should be child sex trafficking victims, and foreign workers employed by small foreign-owned companies may be vulnerable to labor trafficking. With growing concerns about the nation's youth being victims of abuse, including sexual abuse, Superintendent of Police Trevor Bailey said for the year thus far, over 80 reports of sexual offenses have been reported to the police, with the victims' age range from 18 years old and under. Superintendent Bailey and Constable Elroy Kwame, who is attached to the Sexual Offences Unit of the RSVG Police Force, were on the Police Beat program yesterday on NBC Radio discussing the topic, Our Children, Our Responsibility, Our Future. Stop the abuse, protect our children now.
Seeing indecent assault is very common. Unlawful sexual intercourse, and we're talking here now with intercourse with a girl who is 13 and under, and there's some where the young lady is 13. She's 13, but below the age of 15. We're seeing a lot of our young girls getting involved in sexual activities pretty early. This is of particular concern to us. Rape, we have seen some rapes. We have seen buggery, where our males have fallen victims on a couple of occasions to sexual assaults. We have seen child pornography. This is also of concern to us. You know, I want to appeal to our children, you know, that they too must recognize that they are still in their youthful years. And once an adult or even their peers try to engage them in sexual conversation or in any sex act, or they touches them inappropriately, not to take it lightly, but they must report it immediately.
Constable Kwame said a parent or legal guardian can be charged for withholding information from the authorities about a child being abused, and highlighted this in the Child Care and Adoption Act of 2010, sections 12 and 14.
Incidents that occur within the home setting, and persons who may find it difficult to report it because of family members and so on. So I want to highlight the Child Care and Adoption Act and what it says as it relates to reporting, right? And it says section 12 and 14 of the Child Care and Adoption Act of 2010 is a criminal offense for a person who provides health care, child care services, welfare, education, and law enforcement, wholly or partly to children who have knowledge that a child is being abused, to withhold that information from the police or from the Director of Family Affairs. And the crime carries a penalty on summary conviction of a fine not exceeding $5,000 or to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 3 months. So that is saying that once you have a responsibility, a personal legal responsibility to these children, once you know that they are being abused and you withhold that information, you can be charged under the Child Care and Adoption Act. So what we are saying, once you know and you have information that child is being abused, you have a responsibility to that child. You report that matter ASAP, or there will be consequences to this. And I know and I understand in some cases persons may not want to do that because they think about shame to their family, but you have to also think about the welfare of your children and looking and seeking for justice.
As the carnival season approaches, Superintendent Bailey is urging parents to desist from the norm of leaving siblings in charge of siblings to attend carnival events, noting that a trusted adult should be at home to ensure children's safety. In terms of workplace harassment, attorney at law Roderick Jones said where both genders are in the same work environment, harassment can manifest itself into something else, even to the stage of sexual harassment. Jones was a panelist on SVG-TV's Viewpoints program on Sunday, along with grievance officer of the Public Service Union, Kathy Davis, and organizational and business psychologist Franz George, discussing the topic, what is workplace harassment, how can it be addressed, and what are the possible impacts on employees or the company's performance when issues go unaddressed.
So in many instances where you have harassment between the sexes, man and woman, the harassment manifests itself in the form of sexual harassment. For example, a repeated statement about how a woman looks, and with these sexual undertones obviously constitutes harassment if it's a course of conduct that obtains over a period of time. I know, for example, a few years ago, a young man who at the time was employed at one of our banks was dismissed because he commented on how tightly the clothes of a co-worker looked on her. All right? We made a point that sometimes internal policies can help to regulate this behavior. So in many instances where you have male-female, it's because you have harassment that has, as I said, some sort of sexual undertones. Sometimes you may have bullying on the job as well, where for whatever reason two women fell out, and one, of course, bullies the other one and causes that person to feel any degree of distress or any degree of alarm. That constitutes harassment. The same thing can hold for male-to-male relations, where for whatever reason you might not be complicit in doing a particular thing that might be against what you know you ought to be doing at the workplace, and because somebody sees you as a snitch, they harass you. So harassment can take a variety of forms, but anything that, as I said, will make you feel uncomfortable, anything that will cause you distress on the workplace or to cause you to be alarmed on the workplace constitutes harassment.
The PSU grievance officer said there are several telltale signs that employers should look out for, which may indicate that an employee is uncomfortable in the working environment.
Okay. And if you're a supervisor, you must have knowledge of why, or you inquire why is my worker not coming in. And if you have that good relationship with the worker, then that person might open up to you and maybe tell you what is going on, especially if it's happening on the job. Another thing is their demeanor. If you notice that they've been losing weight, their mental state is not sound, they're not functioning like normal, then it's within your right as a supervisor to have that dialogue with your worker. But you must make that person feel safe when they feel to express themselves to you. And then you can take it from there. Especially if there is a union rep within your department, then you can follow the chain of command, you go through that, and then you can get some form of redress for that person.
Organizational and business psychologist Franz George said from a psychological standpoint, it is necessary that all employees feel safe in their workplace so that they can perform their duties to the best of their ability.
Employees, no matter their function, no matter their years of experience, no matter their qualifications, no matter what, that they can all feel safe within the workplace. And the workplace can be a place where they can do their job in a fulfilled manner and contribute to the organization's performance. And it's important that CEOs, owners, managers, whomever might be in charge, it's important that they know that for the organization and business to innovate, to grow, to scale, to make any sort of impact, no matter what bottom line you're using to measure the impact, to make any sort of impact, the employees need to feel safe. Because it's only when they are safe that they will perform their best. And it's only when they perform at their best can that translate into organizational performance. And so, managers in particular need to be trained to observe the signs of harassment. The necessary policy needs to be enforced to ensure that certain avenues are made available so employees can feel that they can express their grievances. And it's also necessary that the overall workplace culture reflects the values of organizational and workplace safety. And I'm quite sure that, the research hasn't been lying, because the research is there to actually back up all of this. So, for a more functional SVG, for us to see more impact in our society, I would really encourage members from the private sector and even from the public service to prioritize the safety of all employees.
Public servants across the country have been urged to be great for God. The encouragement comes from Bishop Nolan James, who delivered the sermon at yesterday's church service held to mark the commencement of Public Service Week 2023, being observed under the theme, Participate, Appreciate, Collaborate.
For godliness with contentment is great gain. I want to address us this morning that you can be great for God because God will not fail you. There are people who are having issues that if they serve God, they will never be great. The devil is a liar and he's the father of lies. Is there anyone here today, because of Jesus you are great? Put your hands together and give God a praise in this place. Hallelujah. The songwriter says, without him I can't do nothing.
Pastor James further encouraged the public servants to put God first in their daily lives.
Fresh, and God is simply saying, remain where you are. Your season will come. When your season comes, I will take you from the bottom and I will put you to the top. Somebody get ready, get ready, get ready for greatness in God. Get ready for greatness in God. Be great. Be great for God. Some people are proud when they're given status. But when you look at their relationship with God, no status. What is more important? Status of man or status of God? Oh, somebody put your hands together for God. You answer, you answer. What is more important?
Activities for Public Service Week include a ministerial internship program today and tomorrow, recognition of public servants for their years of service tomorrow, and the Public Service Speaking Competition on Thursday. Activities will climax on Friday, Public Service Day, with a Wellness and Appreciation Fair at the Old Treasury site from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Community consultation meetings are scheduled to be held across St. Vincent and the Grenadines as the government begins the implementation of the SVG Food Insecurity Project 2023, which is funded by the World Bank. A news release from the Ministry of Agriculture said from tomorrow, Wednesday, June 21st to Wednesday, June 28th, the community consultation meetings will be held in 15 communities on the Leeward, Windward and Central regions of mainland St. Vincent, as well as in the Grenadines. These meetings, it said, will sensitize stakeholders about the opportunities and benefits of the project, facilitate stakeholder feedback, and demonstrate the procedures for application and beneficiary selection. Tomorrow, meetings will take place in Sandy Bay, Georgetown, Trumuka, and Chateaubelair. On Thursday, meetings will be held in North Union, Greggs and Lauders, Kittels, Barley. On Monday, June 26th, the meetings will be held in Mesopotamia, Kalyaquah, and Beckway. On Tuesday, June 27th, in Kingstown, Belair, and Bayaboo, and the final meeting will take place on Wednesday, June 28th, in Union Island. At a sum of $10 million, the SVG Food Insecurity Project is funded through the overarching regional program Unleashing the Blue Economy of the Caribbean, UBEC, under its Contingent Emergency Response Component, CERC. The project aims to mitigate the negative impacts on SVG's agricultural and fisheries sectors, which have been caused over the years by the April 2021 volcanic eruptions, the COVID-19 pandemic, the Russia-Ukraine war, climate change, tropical storms, and droughts. The project's objectives include increasing food production and availability to residents and a growing visitor population, improving economic and physical access to food by vulnerable groups, improving productivity, resilience, and sustainability of the SVG production system, and improving the quality and competitiveness of fish, fruit, and vegetables through targeted food safety investments. The SVG Food Insecurity Project is being implemented by the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labor, and the Economic Planning Division of the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, with assistance from the Ministry of Tourism, Civil Aviation, Sustainable Development, and Culture. Pro tempore President of the Community of Latin America and the Caribbean States, CELAC, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, has called for closer cooperation in providing practicable and actionable outcomes in averting the global climate crisis. The call was made by SVG Sustainable Development Minister Carlos James at the recently held European Union, EU, Latin American and the Caribbean, LAC, ministerial meeting on the environment and climate change held last Friday in San Jose, Costa Rica. Ministers from both the EU and CELAC committed to stepping up cooperation to tackle the triple planetary crisis of climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss. They agreed to promote a transition towards low-carbon, circular, and clean economies where nature is protected and restored. During the plenary meeting, Minister James said, "What is simply required is action beyond the pledges, and the EU-CELAC partnership must take the conversation beyond dialogue towards actionable outcomes that are solutions-based, realistic, and meaningful in the fight against climate change." According to Minister James, the upcoming EU-CELAC summit in July presents a tremendous opportunity to redefine the region's position on the way forward with developmental partners such as the European Union, noting that SVG's pro tempore presidency of CELAC is about strengthening the collaboration on matters of mutual interest, including climate change. The meeting, which was attended by 14 ministers and 65 representatives from Latin America, the Caribbean, and the EU, discussed opportunities for closer cooperation on the conservation, restoration, and sustainable use of biodiversity in line with the new Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, including the fight against deforestation and forest degradation and the promotion of deforestation-free supply chains. They also discussed policies and best practices to make their economies more circular and less carbon-intensive and polluting, including accelerating the transition to a circular economy and cooperating towards an ambitious global agreement to tackle plastics pollution. The meeting of ministers highlighted the key points of convergence around regional priorities and integrational cooperation, which will be used as input for the European Union Community of Latin America and the Caribbean EU-CELAC Summit on July 17th and 18th in Brussels.
All right.
Preparations are being made for the staging of the much-anticipated Miss Windward Pageant 2023 to be held this Friday night at the Seaview Gardens in Georgetown. The sixth staging of the pageant forms part of the Windward Carnival activities. Coordinator of the Miss Windward Pageant, Renata Peters-Morris, told SVG-TV News that the public can expect a great level of competition between the 5 contestants.
Contestants to bring their A games. They have been training for a very long time. We've started training since March, and the contestants have been, enduring lots of difficult days, difficult periods. They've been involved in various training sessions, interview training, stage training, and they've worked tirelessly and very hard. So when you come to Georgetown next week, Friday, what you can expect is a very high standard of a production. The contestants, they've all been working very hard on their talents, their performances, and they've embraced the training opportunities that they received. And as you can see based on the display, that you can expect nothing but the best from each contestant. I want to also thank our sponsors who have come forward to sponsor the contestants individually.
Noting that the hosting of the Miss Windward pageant was impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, Morris said that the long break made it difficult to find young ladies who were interested in pageantry.
Of June. It's part of the rural carnival activities in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This is the 5th staging of the pageant. We've had pageants before in 2016, which was the first time it was rebranded as Miss Windward Pageant. Previously it was called the Miss North Windward Pageant. So we had shows in 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019 was the last show. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we had a break in terms of shows. So we're just coming back this year, 2023 for the Miss. So this year we have 5 girls this year who are taking part in the pageant. Previous years we've had 6, we've had 5, we've had 6, we've had 5. But given the fact that there was a long break in terms of having a pageant, it was a little bit difficult getting the girls to come forward because of course we haven't had a pageant for a while. So we have 5 girls this year, and then the girls are from the Windward area. We have contestants starting from Sandy Bay, we have Orange Hill, Georgetown. We have as far down as Calder, and we have San Souci this year as communities in the pageant this year.
Bouncing back in a big way, Morris said the Miss Windward pageant team decided to do things a little different this year to showcase the contestants and to spice up the pageant.
Yeah, we wanted to do something different in terms of having the girls with the official photo shoot. So what we incorporated was having various career paths that young women can take in society. So we call it Fruits of Our Labor. That's what we call the official themed shoot. So the contestants each were given a career path to choose. So we've had the 5 contestants. They portrayed various aspects of a career that a female can be involved in, can have. So we've had a teacher, an artisan, a painter, a farmer, and of course a contestant portraying the fishing aspect of having fishing as a career path. Okay, so this gives women a chance to see that doesn't matter what there's no set career path that you should take. Traditionally there's so many career paths that normally women would say, I want to become a teacher or a nurse or even a lawyer. But in this case, we wanted to highlight career paths where women would not normally get into.
The 5 contestants who will be vying for the Miss Windward 2023 title say they are well prepared and ready to take the stage on Friday night.
I'm contestant number 1 in the Miss Windward Pageant 2023. I am Zeta Barker, representing Orange Hill, born and raised, and also I am a very fun person and a sporting person as well. We have been preparing for 3 months. On the night, you would expect nothing but grace, talent, and beauty. A specific career. In the next 5 years, I see myself achieving all my academic goals, as well as becoming a business teacher.
I am Janisha Cupid, Miss San Souci, sponsored by Seaview Garden Beach Club and Resort. Next 5 years, I hope to become an air hostess and interact with different people from all over the world. So far, so good. I've been preparing great.
My name is Beyonce Kwashi, and I'm contestant number 3 in the Miss Windward Pageant 2023. I am Miss Georgetown, proudly sponsored by Foreign Base Entertainment. The preparation has been hectic, and sometimes it was fun. And as the journey is coming to an end, I would really, really like to just thank God for bringing me this far, and I have a lot in store. If you aspire to become a pageant queen or enter into pageantry, do not let anyone discourage you. Aim for your goal and achieve it.
I am Veronique Thomas, Miss Sandy Bay, proudly sponsored by House of Ellis. I've decided to enter this pageant because I would like to be more disciplined, be more outspoken, and also help with time management skills. Preparations have been rough in the beginning, but coming along, it gets a little bit easier. I hope I achieve everything that I have wanted and living my dream.
I am contestant number 5 in the Miss Windward 2023 pageant. I am Donicia Yearwood. I am from the community of Calder, and I am proud to be sponsored by Woody's Bar and Restaurant, located in the United States of America. I am aspiring to be a lawyer, so I'm hoping to obtain a scholarship to help me to further my studies in law.